can almost hear the roar of the waterfall now. We're coming up on it. I want you to be able to see it. It's really, really pretty. Oh, there it is. Yes, that's Ensalada. That is our Thorn Spring waterfall. It looks like something out of Better Homes and Gardens, but it's really cool. It is a natural spring. All right, so like I said, snow normally melts nice and slow. But if you were here on New Year's Eve, 1996, who wouldn't? That would have been. I would think that would have been a pretty nice time to be here. You're partying, having a good time, unbeknownst to you, out in the Hawaiian Islands. A series of tropical storms are forming, and they're heading here. It's called the Pineapple Express. That sounds nice. It's also called an atmospheric river. That doesn't sound as nice. Basically, it's a series of storms, almost a conveyor belt of water. There's so many storms coming. It's just a train of storms coming this way. So it comes to California. It's a couple thousand feet above the mountains, and it releases a lot of relatively warm rain, liquid water. What happens when relatively warm water is poured onto snow and ice?
Freezes.
You melt it, right?
Oh.
So guess what? It all melted out in just a couple days. Everything below 7,000 feet was melted. Here on we're driving through currently Bridal Veil Meadow. This is the site of probably one of our most famous camping trips anywhere in Yosemite. There's even a little plaque right there. Gives you a hint about what's going on. You guys remember John Muir? I mentioned him earlier, right? He had an important camping trip with the President of the United States in 1903, May of 1903. And who was our president then? Teddy Roosevelt, that's right. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, why that was so important. Boy, look at the traffic. A lot of, you would never guess that it was the July 4th weekend. All right, so let's go back to our story about the rain from high above. It melted all that snow and ice out in just a matter of days.
No, Roosevelt did it.
And all these waterfalls became gigantic.
Roosevelt made it a national park.
I've been told
Abraham Lincoln
that things like the Yosemite, Yosemite waterfall and the Bridal Veil Fall and some of their high waterfalls were shooting out entire trees because they had flooded their riverbanks, ripped out trees, and were just shooting them over the waterfall. Can you imagine that? It must have been amazing. They shut the place down for months. It cost the better part of $200 million in damage. But the Park Service learned a lot from that. So in January of this year when I was here, we had a flood, and for a while the forecast was up in the 20-foot range like back then, and we were all pretty worried, but we had a plan. Fortunately, only got to about 13 or 14 feet. We still had flooding, and we evacuated, but we knew how to handle it because we were prepared for it. But flooding is a natural process here. It's how the valley cleans itself. By the way, normally we only have like a couple thousand cubic feet per second of water. They estimate that during that flood it was like 24,000 cubic feet of water per second. For perspective, in terms of just pure mass, that's about the equivalent of 6 locomotive cars from a train. 6 locomotive engines coming at you every second. That's amazing. All right. We're heading up towards the direction of Tunnel View now. It's a very famous place. There's some pictures that were taken from there that help make this place the park that it is today. So earlier I was talking about those volcanoes erupting. All right.